My own son looked me dead in the eye and said I was a broke old man who needed to stop embarrassing his wife's family. Right there at my kitchen table, the same table where I taught him to tie his shoes when he was 5. That moment changed everything. I'm Christopher Murphy, 58 years old. For the past 3 years, I've been playing a role that fooled everyone, including my own boy. He thought I was just another retired handyman, scraping by on Social Security and odd jobs. What Ryan didn't know was that I'd sold Murphy Construction Company in 2021 for $18 million cash. What he really didn't know was that I owned 12 rental properties across Texas, bringing in $85,000 every month, including the apartment he'd been living in for 2 years. When he handed me legal papers demanding I sign over my house within 60 days, I didn't argue. I made 3 phone calls instead. Sometimes the only way to teach someone the value of hard work is to let them lose everything they think they deserve. Most people see exactly what Ryan sees when they look at me. A guy pushing 60 who drives a 2003 Ford F-150 with primer spots and a dent in the tailgate. Someone who wears Carhartt work pants and steel-toed boots that have seen better days. I show up to family dinners with a 12-pack of Budweiser and turn down wine because I tell them I can't tell good from cheap. The truck's got 280,000 miles on it, but the engine purrs like a kitten because I rebuilt it myself in my garage. The work clothes are comfortable, broken in from years of actual construction work before I moved up to running crews, then managing projects, then owning the whole operation. But to Ryan and his wife, it just looks like poverty. Ryan Murphy, 30 years old, real estate agent pulling in $125,000 a year selling houses in North Dallas. His wife Amanda, 28, marketing manager at a tech startup, drives a $45,000 BMW and has strong opinions about everything from my haircut to the flip phone I still carry. They live in a world where appearance equals success, where you're judged by your car payment and your zip code. I built Murphy Construction from nothing in 1993. Started with me and a borrowed truck, taking on small residential jobs nobody else wanted. Foundation repairs, deck replacements, bathroom remodels. Work that got me dirty and paid the bills while I learned the business inside out. By 1998, I had 6 employees and was bidding commercial contracts, shopping centers, office buildings, warehouse conversions. The work was steady, the margins were good, and I reinvested every penny back into equipment and better people. Ryan was 6 years old then, and he'd ride with me to job sites on Saturdays, wearing a hard hat I'd bought just for him. By 2005, Murphy Construction had 30 employees and $8 million in annual revenue. We were the go-to contractor for mid-size commercial projects across North Texas. I'd moved from swinging a hammer to managing superintendents, from reading blueprints to negotiating, with architects and developers. Ryan was in middle school by then, playing Little League and taking guitar lessons his mother insisted on. He'd stopped asking to come to job sites, said they were boring, said construction was dirty work. I didn't push it, figured he'd find his own path. The warning signs with Ryan started 6 months ago when he began talking about maximizing family assets. Then it became discussions about property investment opportunities and generational wealth building. Big words for concepts he'd learned from YouTube videos and real estate seminars. When Amanda started taking pictures of my living room for her Pinterest board, calling it a renovation challenge, I knew something was brewing. She'd walk through my house like she was already the owner, pointing out dated fixtures and inefficient layouts. The woman had never swung a hammer in her life, but she sure had opinions about construction. The breaking point happened 3 weeks ago when they brought Amanda's parents over for Sunday dinner. I'd been making pot roast and mashed potatoes every Sunday for 2 years, trying to maintain some family connection after my wife passed. Simple food, simple conversation, just trying to keep us together. Scott and Jessica Peterson. Scott owns 2 car dealerships in Plano and never lets you forget it. Talks about moving units and maximizing floor traffic, like he's running General Motors instead of selling Toyotas to suburbanites. Jessica volunteers at the country club and makes sure everyone knows about her charity work, especially when there's an audience. They walked into my house like they were doing a property inspection. Scott immediately started pointing out problems, things I'd noticed and chosen not to fix because they didn't matter. Foundation's got some settling issues, Christopher. That roof's got to be 20 years old. And this electrical panel, man, that's a fire hazard waiting to happen. The electrical panel was perfectly fine. I'd upgraded it myself in 2018, pulled the permits, had it inspected. But Scott didn't know that. He just saw an older house and assumed everything needed replacing. Amanda was taking notes on her phone while Ryan nodded along like an eager student. Dad, Scott knows a contractor who could fix this place up for maybe $35,000, if you're smart about it. $35,000. Like I had that kind of money lying around. Like I hadn't been in construction for 30 years and didn't know exactly what those repairs would actually cost. Dad doesn't really do big purchases, Amanda explained to her mother, using that voice people use when they're talking about someone who can't afford groceries. Fixed income, you know. Jessica gave me that sympathetic smile rich people use on poor folks. Christopher, have you thought about what happens when you can't maintain this property anymore? There are some lovely senior communities in Richardson, very affordable. I'm 58 and I run 4 miles every morning, but sure, let's talk about senior communities. Ryan jumped in with what he'd obviously rehearsed. Actually, Dad, that's what we wanted to discuss today. Amanda and I have been talking about our 5-year plan. Her marketing business is taking off, and we're thinking about starting a family soon. This house would be perfect for us. Perfect for them. In my house. The house I'd bought with cash from my first big commercial contract in 2001. The house where I'd taught Ryan to ride a bike in the driveway, where we'd built a tree house in the backyard that took us 3 weekends because I kept letting him help with the power tools. Scott leaned back in his chair like he was about to solve all my problems. Christopher, I'm going to be straight with you. Property values in this area have gone through the roof. Your house is probably worth $420,000 now. That's a lot of equity for someone on a pension. Amanda nodded enthusiastically. We've already talked to a mortgage broker. If we assumed the property, we could handle all the maintenance and improvements. You wouldn't have to worry about anything. The conversation continued like I wasn't even there. Everyone discussing my future, my house, my finances. Ryan talking about renovation plans. Amanda showing pictures on her phone of similar properties they'd already researched. Scott offering to connect me with his financial guy who could help me manage the proceeds. Finally, Scott cleared his throat like he was about to announce the winner of the lottery. Here's what I'm thinking. You deed the house over to Ryan and Amanda now. They let you stay in the guest room for however long you need, and everybody wins. You get to age in place, they get to build their future, and the property stays in the family. Age in place, in the guest room of my own house, the house I'd designed, contracted, and personally supervised the construction of back when Ryan was still in elementary school. I smiled and told them I'd think about it. What else was I gonna say with 5 people staring at me like I was some charity case who should be grateful for their generosity? That night, I sat in my home office and pulled out files Ryan hadn't seen since he was a teenager. The filing cabinet in the corner that he probably thought contained old tax returns and utility bills. Murphy Construction Company sale documents showing the $18 million transaction with Hartwell Development Group. Property deeds for 12 rental units across North Texas. Bank statements from First Republic showing liquid assets totaling $11.3 million. Investment portfolio worth another $16.8 million. Commercial real estate holdings valued at $4.2 million. Total net worth $32.3 million. The legal papers arrived by email the next morning at 6:47 a.m. Subject line: Property transfer for family benefit. Ryan had hired some lawyer friend to draft documents that made it sound like they were doing me the biggest favor in the world. I had 60 days to sign over the deed, or they'd pursue alternative legal remedies to ensure proper property stewardship. Property stewardship. That's what they were calling trying to steal my house. The letter included a helpful breakdown of my supposed monthly expenses based on typical retirement income for someone of your work history. They'd calculated that I could barely afford groceries after housing costs, completely ignoring the fact that I'd never told them what my actual income was. The final paragraph made me want to throw my coffee mug through the window. This arrangement allows Christopher Murphy to remain comfortable in familiar surroundings while ensuring the property is properly maintained and improved for future generations. Future generations. Meaning Ryan and Amanda wanted my house, and they'd dressed up their greed in language about family legacy and taking care of dear old Dad. I walked to my filing cabinet and spread everything across my desk like I was planning a military operation. Then I made my list. First call, Nicole Williams, my attorney for 15 years. She'd handled the business sale, the property acquisitions, and my wife's estate when she passed 4 years ago. Nicole, I need documents prepared fast. Ryan's trying to take the house. What kind of documents, Christopher? The kind that teach my son the difference between earning something and just taking it because you think you deserve it. Nicole was quiet for a moment. She'd known Ryan since he was 15, had watched him grow up thinking the world owed him success. How fast are we talking? 48 hours. And Nicole, make sure everything's bulletproof. This is going to get ugly before it gets better. Second call. Matthew Johnson, property manager for my rental portfolio. Matthew was a retired Marine who ran his operation like a military unit. Fair but strict, and he didn't tolerate tenants who thought the rules didn't apply to them. Matthew, we need to accelerate the Morrison Street apartment situation. Unit 2I. 4B. Full eviction proceedings, 30-day notice. Christopher, that's your son's apartment. You sure about this? He's been living there for 2 years without paying rent, and he doesn't even know I own the building. Now he's trying to steal my house. Yeah, I'm sure. Matthew didn't argue. He'd seen enough entitled people in his time to know when someone needed a reality check. I'll have the papers drawn up today. Legal service tomorrow morning. The third call was the hardest. I dialed Ryan directly, knowing he was probably at his office showing houses to young couples who thought they knew everything about real estate. He answered on the second ring, sounding annoyed. Dad, what's up? I'm showing a property in 20 minutes. I got your legal papers, Ryan. Oh, good. So you'll sign them this week? Amanda's already picked out paint colors for the renovations. We want to get started as soon as possible. Ryan, I need to ask you something, and I want a straight answer. How much do you think I'm worth? He laughed, that condescending chuckle people use when they think you've asked something stupid. Dad, come on. You drive a 20-year-old truck and shop at Walmart. You wear the same work clothes you've had for 10 years. I'm guessing maybe $50,000 in savings if you're lucky. And you think that gives you the right to take my house? It's not taking, Dad. It's helping. You can't afford to maintain a 2,800 square foot house on Social Security and whatever odd jobs you pick up. We're offering you a solution that lets you stay comfortable while we handle all the responsibilities. What if I said no? Ryan's voice got sharp, more serious. Dad, don't make this difficult. Scott's lawyer looked into it. There are provisions in Texas law for family property transfers when the current owner can't properly maintain the property. We can do this the easy way, or we can do it the hard way. He hung up on me. I sat there in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd taught Ryan to change a tire when he was 16, and realized something that broke my heart a little. My son genuinely believed he was rescuing me from poverty. Documents that made it sound like they were doing me the biggest favor since Social Security. I had 60 days to sign, or they'd pursue alternative legal remedies to ensure proper property stewardship. Property stewardship. For the house I'd built with my own hands and my own money. The letter included a helpful breakdown of my supposed monthly expenses based on what they called typical retirement income for someone of your work history. They'd calculated that I could barely afford groceries after housing costs, utilities, and basic maintenance. The math was completely wrong, but it looked official on letterhead from Peterson Legal Group, Scott's brother, apparently. The final paragraph made my blood pressure spike. This arrangement allows Christopher Murphy to remain comfortable in familiar surroundings while ensuring the property is properly maintained and preserved for future generations. Future generations, meaning Ryan and Amanda. I walked to my filing cabinet and spread everything across my desk. Construction company sale papers, property deeds, investment portfolios, bank statements showing a net worth of $32.3 million when you added it all up. Then I pulled out my phone and made my list. First call. Nicole Williams, my attorney for 15 years. She'd handled the Murphy construction sale, helped me structure the property investments, knew exactly what I was worth. Nicole, I need documents prepared fast. Ryan's trying to take the house. Christopher, what are you talking about? Take it how? Legal papers. They want me to deed it over or they'll go to court claiming I can't maintain it properly. There was a long pause. They know that's ridiculous, right? You could buy and sell half the houses in that neighborhood. They think I'm broke, Nicole, living on Social Security, barely scraping by, and now they want to rescue me from my own property. What kind of documents do you need? The kind that teach my son the difference between earning something and assuming you deserve it. Nicole knew me well enough to understand exactly what I meant. How fast are we talking? 48 hours, and Nicole, make sure everything's bulletproof. This is going to get ugly before it gets better. Second call. Matthew Johnson, property manager for my rental portfolio. He'd been managing my properties for 8 years, collecting rents, handling maintenance, dealing with tenant issues so I could stay in the background. Matthew, we need to accelerate the Morrison Street apartment situation. The tenant in Unit 4B. Full eviction proceedings, 30-day notice for non-payment. Christopher, that's your son's apartment. You sure about this? He's 3 months behind on what should be market rent, and he doesn't even know I'm his landlord. He thinks he's getting a deal through some property management company. How behind is he? Really? I pulled up the records on my computer. He should be paying $1,800 a month for that unit. I've been letting him stay there for $400 a month, calling it utilities and maintenance fees. He owes me about $4,200 in actual rent. Jesus, Christopher, you've been subsidizing his housing for 2 years? And he's been using that money he saved to plan vacations, buy expensive dinners, lease that BMW for Amanda, all while lecturing me about financial responsibility. I'll have the papers drawn up this afternoon. Third call was the hardest. I dialed Ryan directly, knowing exactly what I needed to hear from him one more time. He answered on the second ring, sounding busy and important. Dad, what's up? I'm between showings. I got your legal papers this morning. Oh, good. So you'll sign them this week? Amanda's already picked out paint colors for the master bedroom. We're thinking of converting your workshop into a home office. My workshop, where I'd built cabinets for our first apartment, where I'd taught Ryan to use a saw when he was 12, where I'd refinished his mother's hope chest the year before she died. Ryan, I need to ask you something, and I want an honest answer. Sure, Dad. How much do you think I'm worth? Ballpark figure? He actually laughed. Dad, come on. You drive a 20-year-old truck and shop at Walmart. You haven't taken a vacation in years. You wear the same work clothes you've had since I was in high school. I'm guessing maybe $50,000 in savings if you're lucky, plus whatever equity is in the house. And you think that gives you the right to take my house? It's not taking, Dad. It's helping. You can't afford to maintain a 2,800 square foot house on Social Security. The property taxes alone are probably killing you. We're offering you a way to stay in the house while we handle all the financial responsibility. What if I said no? Ryan's voice got sharp, impatient. Dad, don't make this difficult. Scott's lawyer looked into it. There are legal provisions for family property transfers when the current owner can't properly maintain the property. We can do this the easy way, or we can do it through the courts, but either way, this is happening. Is that a threat, Ryan? It's reality. Amanda and I aren't going to stand by and watch you lose this house to back taxes or deferred maintenance. We're trying to save it for the family. He hung up on me. I sat there in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd taught him to scramble eggs when he was 8 years old, and felt something cold settle in my chest. My own son was threatening to sue me for my own property, and he genuinely believed he was the hero of this story. The eviction notice was delivered to Ryan's apartment at 2:47 p.m. that same afternoon. Standard legal document served by a constable, 30 days to vacate for non-payment of rent in the amount of $4,200. My phone rang at 6:15 p.m. Ryan's voice was shaking. Dad, something insane just happened. My landlord is evicting me. Some property management company I've never heard of. They say I owe over $4,000 in back rent, but that's impossible. I pay my rent every month. That's terrible, son. What are you going to do? I don't know. The rental market is crazy right now. Amanda's having a panic attack. We might have to move in with her parents temporarily, but you know how Scott feels about house guests. I let him talk for 10 minutes about how unfair it all was, how the system was rigged against young people, how landlords were all greedy predators taking advantage of honest tenants. Finally, I interrupted him. Ryan, what's the name of the property management company? Lone Star Property Solutions. Never heard of them before today. Interesting, I have. The silence stretched long enough that I thought he'd hung up. Finally, what do you mean you've heard of them? I mean I own Lone Star Property Solutions, Ryan, have for 8 years. And you, son, have been living in my apartment for 2 years while planning to steal my house. The silence on the other end lasted so long, I thought he'd dropped the phone. Finally, I heard him breathing, fast and shallow. That's not possible, Dad. You don't have money for rental properties. You drive a beat-up truck. Ryan, check your lease agreement. It's signed by Matthew Johnson, property manager. Matthew works for me. You've been living in my property paying about a quarter of market rent, while lecturing me about financial responsibility. The sound he made wasn't quite words, more like someone getting punched in the stomach. But how? When? Dad, this doesn't make sense. Let me ask you something else, son. Do you know what Murphy Construction Company sold for in 2021? You said you just retired and closed it down. I sold it for $18 million to Hartwell Development Group. The sale was announced in the Dallas Business Journal. You could have Googled my name any time in the past 3 years. Dead silence again. I also own 11 other rental properties across North Texas, plus commercial real estate, including the office building where your realty company leases space. My monthly rental income is $85,000. My total net worth is $32.3 million. I heard Amanda's voice in the background, high and frantic. Ryan was trying to explain something to her, but the words weren't coming out right. Dad, why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted to see what kind of man you'd become when you thought I had nothing, when you thought you had all the power. And now I know. The dinner party was Amanda's idea, planned before they knew about the eviction. A celebration, she'd called it when she invited me. They'd rented the private dining room at Steakhouse Elite, invited 20 people, including Ryan's real estate colleagues, Amanda's co-workers, and of course, the Peterson family. I showed up wearing clean Carhartt pants and a flannel shirt, carrying a bottle of Crown Royal I'd bought at the gas station. The looks I got from Amanda's friends were priceless. 20 people in designer clothes staring at me like I'd wandered in from a construction site. Scott Peterson held court at one end of the table, telling stories about his dealership success, while everyone nodded and laughed at appropriate moments. Ryan sat next to him, looking nervous and checking his phone constantly. Amanda kept glancing at me like she expected me to embarrass her. About halfway through dinner, Scott tapped his wine glass with his knife to get everyone's attention. Everyone, I want to make a toast to family taking care of family. Ryan and Amanda have some exciting news about their future, and it involves Christopher here making a very generous decision about his property. All eyes turned to me. I smiled and raised my Crown Royal. Actually, Scott, before we toast anything, I'm curious about something. This is a nice restaurant. Who do you think owns this building? Ryan looked confused. I don't know. Some restaurant. Group? The building is owned by Murphy Properties, LLC, which is owned by me. Has been for 6 years. I also own the parking garage where you all parked tonight. The table got quieter, conversations stopping mid-sentence. Murphy Properties is just one of my companies, Scott. I also own Lone Star Property Solutions, which manages rental properties across North Texas. Scott Peterson had gone pale. Christopher, what exactly are you saying? I'm saying I own this building, the same way I own 12 rental properties bringing in $85,000 a month, the same way I owned Murphy Construction Company until I sold it for $18 million in 2021. Ryan stood up so fast his chair fell backward. Dad, stop. Oh, I'm just getting started, son. I looked around the table at all these people who'd spent the evening listening to Ryan and Amanda explain how they needed to take care of their poor, struggling father. You see, everyone here has been told that I'm some broke old man who can't afford his own house, that I need my son and daughter-in-law to rescue me from poverty. I took a sip of my Crown Royal and pulled out my phone. But here's what's interesting. Ryan makes $125,000 a year selling houses. Amanda makes about $85,000 in marketing. Together they bring home maybe $140,000 after taxes. The silence was complete now. 20 people watching my son realize he knew nothing about his father. I make $85,000 a month in rental income alone. I opened my banking app and turned the phone toward the table. First Republic Trust, main account balance, $11.3 million. Someone at the far end whispered something under their breath. Real estate portfolio, $16.8 million. Investment accounts, $4.2 million. Total net worth, $32.3 million, give or take what the stock market did today. Ryan's boss, Jennifer, was the first to excuse herself. Ryan, we should probably discuss some things privately this week. Others followed quickly. Amanda's co-workers, Ryan's colleagues, the Petersons' friends. Within 15 minutes, we were sitting alone. Scott Peterson made one last desperate attempt. Christopher, surely we can work something out. Maybe we misunderstood your situation. Nothing to work out, Scott. You tried to intimidate me into giving up my property. Your lawyer son sent me threatening papers. Now you know exactly who you were threatening. The next 30 days were hard to watch. Ryan lost his real estate license for ethics violations. Turned out listing someone else's property without authorization is fraud. Amanda got laid off when her startup folded. They had to sell the BMW, move in with Scott and Jessica temporarily, which lasted exactly 12 days before they got kicked out. They ended up in a studio apartment in Garland, both working retail jobs, learning what it actually costs to live when nobody's subsidizing your rent. But you know what? Sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones people need most. The call came on a Thursday evening, 6 weeks after the dinner party. Ryan's voice was different, quieter, more mature. "Dad, can we come over Sunday? Amanda and I want to cook dinner for you. Actually cook, not order takeout. We owe you that much." They showed up with grocery bags, driving a used Honda Accord with a small dent in the door. We made spaghetti and meatballs in my kitchen. Amanda burned the garlic, Ryan overcooked the pasta, and we laughed about it. As they were leaving, Ryan turned back. "Dad, I learned something these past weeks." "What's that?" "I learned that being a man isn't about what you own or what title you have. It's about earning what you get, and not expecting the world to hand you anything just because you think you deserve it." That was 4 months ago. Ryan's still working construction now, learning the trade from the ground up. Amanda's managing a small furniture store. They come over every Sunday, we cook together, and slowly we're rebuilding what almost got lost forever. The greatest gift you can give someone isn't money or property. It's the chance to discover their own strength when they have to earn everything themselves.